Welcome to the Coach's Corner, part of the Iron Sharpening Iron universe. I'm your host, Davina Lyons, also known as Mama Lyons, and this is where real conversations meet real growth. Here we explore what it means to rise through reflection, resilience, and purpose. One story, one insight, one breakthrough at a time. Whether you're a coach, a leader, or simply on your own personal development journey, this is your space to reflect, identify, stand, and emerge stronger than before. So grab your notebook, take a deep breath, and let's rise together, right here in the Coach's Corner.
Hey there, beautiful people. Welcome to the Coach's Corner. I am your host, Mama Lyons, and this is the space where growth, grace, and real conversation come together. Here we talk about the things that make us stronger, from resilience and mindset to living with purpose and heart. Today, I am so honored to welcome someone whose energy is pure sunshine. Melanie Shires, also known as Positively Melanie. She's a positivity guide and creative entrepreneur who helps women in midlife rediscover joy, creativity, and confidence from the inside out. Today, we're diving into what it means to live intentionally, embrace your season, and show up for yourself with love and courage. So, grab your favorite drink, take a deep breath, and get ready to be inspired. Let's welcome Positively Melanie to the Coach's Corner. Hey, Melanie.
Hey, Davina, how are you? I am so happy to be here.
Can I tell you, this is so exciting. My first Coach's Corner, and with my dear friend. If there's anyone in the world that I would want to share this with, it's definitely you. Not to offend any others out there that I love dearly, that would also be great now that I've said that. But you, because I remember, Melanie, the first time I met you when our friend Cami introduced us. And
Yes.
I was meeting her, if you remember, and you
Mhm.
walked in and you were like, your energy was like, woo! Like I felt you on so many levels. And I said to Cami, you were right. She is so positive. She's like you could just, your aura, everything is just wonderful. So I'm not surprised that you are now Positively Melanie. That doesn't surprise me at
Exactly.
all. Right?
Well, and
So
I need to say this because it's like people when they hear, and we'll dive into this a little later about when they
mhm,
hear positivity, they think it's like, oh, I'm all about sunshine and skipping down the
yeah,
yellow brick road to Oz all the time, and that's not it, right? It's like
right.
that is really not it. It is not about
Mhm.
slapping on that smile and basically faking it until you make no, it's not it. But we'll get into that more later. But yeah,
Exactly.
I'm one of those people that I like to say I'm like dark Mexican chocolate. Either you love it or you're just like, oh, you know what I'm saying? It's like one of those things where it's like either you love all the excitement, I'm confetti, right? Either you love
Yeah,
it or you're
yeah,
just, oh my God, there's too much confetti on
absolutely.
me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I want to say real quick that I hope that your audience everywhere is
Mm-hmm.
capturing this and catching this because this is your intro, right? This is
Exactly.
amazing. We're on LinkedIn. We're on Facebook right now, live. We're on Twitch, YouTube. We're live in all of these different places and spaces. And I know you know people, I know people. So I
Yep.
want those people to like and to share and to get the word out that, Positively Melanie has a message, and this is the time now to definitely hear it and share it. Talk to me about what inspired that.
Yeah. So really, positively Melanie is really an embodiment of my journey back to myself. So it's really who I am, the woman that I've always been, but you know, had to go through life, right, and do the things that we all have to do, right, work and be a mother and all those things. But this
Mm-hmm.
is really the embodiment back to, unearthing through the seasons of growth, reinvention, and joy seeking, right? And so really I talk about positivity a lot. And so that's
Mm-hmm.
why Positively Melanie came about, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
as I kind of hinted, positivity isn't about being happy all the time, right? And rainbows and sunshine. It's about choosing to return to joy again and again. Even when life's, stretching you out, reshaping you, calling you higher, it is you coming back to self. So for me, Positively Melanie became my declaration, a reminder to lead with love, to choose intention, and to bring joy in the everyday, even in those small, quiet moments and ways, right? It's my creative brand, my spiritual practice, and my offering to the world. And it's all wrapped up together. That's why my little theme is, rooted in soul, wrapped in joy. That's me.
Ooh, I love that. Rooted
Mm-hmm.
in soul, wrapped in joy. I love that.
Yep.
Nice, 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 nice. All right. So now that you are out as Positively Melanie, what's happening? What are some of the things that are going on in that space, and how are you meeting people?
Yeah. So for me, I'm a creative person, and so all of my career has been in marketing. So I just left a corporate job. I was the director of marketing for Education at Work, and have held many positions throughout my life with different companies, Target and ad agencies, in
Mhm.
a marketing position, in a executive position in marketing. And really for me, I'm good at marketing and I like marketing, but marketing doesn't light me up. What lights me up is certain aspects of marketing, and that's all around creativity, right? It's the writing, it's the content creation, it's the graphic design, and that aspect of marketing that really lights me up. And so
Mhm.
for me, in stepping forward into myself and what I'm doing right now, and calling myself a positivity guide and a creative entrepreneur, is that I'm tapping into those things that, light me up, and I'm expressing myself in a joyful way to help others. And I do that because I create guided journals. I have rituals that I've put into practice. And I also am going to have workshops, and we'll talk a little bit later about my program, the Circle of Eight, which all of those things, those tools and rituals hopefully will help women in midlife in particular to live with intention, reshift their mindset and show up and express themselves joyfully.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful. Yeah, I can't wait to hear more about the different ways in which you are able to help others with being positive and growing.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of creativity in all of this. So,
Mm-hmm.
what are some of the ways that you are able to blend creativity in your daily practice? For instance.
Yeah. So for me, creativity lives everywhere in everyone, right? So I don't think that if that creativity is just painting and writing and drawing and making
Mhm.
music and things like that. Creativity could be anything. It could be anything you're doing with your hands. So my husband's creative because he likes to build things. That's still expressing
Mhm.
himself in a joyful manner, in a creative manner, right? People who love to cook, who love to sew, people who actually are teachers and love to mentor others, right? And share and help others grow. You are being creative. You are expressing yourself to the world, and you are doing that in a joyful way because it brings you purpose, right? So to
Mhm.
me, anything that anyone does that actually lights them up and brings them joy, they're expressing themselves creatively. We were put
Mhm.
on this earth to be creative and to express
Mhm.
ourselves, right?
I
And
love
this is
that.
the way that you can do it.
Mhm.
And everyone is creative. So it's not just certain modalities that everybody thinks of, the painting and the drawing and the music as being creative.
Mhm.
Anyone is creative.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you there. I know that you and I share our experience, our background in terms of working in corporate and in leadership and in training and all of that. And I
Mhm.
remember over the years how I always felt, for many years, I felt like I'm not in the right space. I'm doing something, I'm doing, I'm working, I'm earning a living, but I'm not in the right space. And that's actually how I ended up getting into education and teaching, because I felt like whatever I did, it needed to be something that contributed positively to
Yes.
society, you know.
Yes.
And while we have the
Yes.
education, we have the ability, we can
Mhm.
work in corporate, we can sit in a cubicle and be a cubicle rat, no problem. But that didn't, as you mentioned, it didn't light me
Right.
up.
Right.
Um, your transition from, you know, I think there's a physical transition when you switch to entrepreneurship, but there's also a mental transition.
Oh,
What was that like
absolutely.
for you? What was that like for you saying, okay, here I am, world. I am going to honestly, I'm gonna walk as Positively Melanie now. What was
Yeah,
that
I
like?
think that's a great question because I want to kind of step back a little bit, because I said most of well, all of my career has been in marketing, but there have been different shifts within the career, which I love. Like I have not just been linear where it's like, okay, I've gone from one marketing job to the next. I've done different things that have brought me kind of full circle to where I am now. And so there were little bouts. I like to say that each one was kind of like a puzzle piece that's on the table. And I have all these puzzle pieces on the table now, and I'm starting to click them together. And because I'm starting to click them together and I'm leaning into just letting go, right? And not having that control and just leaning into what lights me up, I'm starting to see that picture. The pieces of the puzzle are clicking and the picture's coming clear. So yes, I was in marketing, but I also, kind of took a shift, and one of the biggest shifts for me was when I worked for Google. So I'm an older person. So of course, when I graduated from college, there was advertising. It wasn't marketing. There was no such thing as a marketing degree. It was advertising, just traditional radio, billboard, TV, whatever, right? And so all this digital marketing stuff didn't come about until smartphones, which was in 2009. Of course, I was already way into my career, but then I ended up getting a job where I had to help agencies. I was a Google rep helping agencies with Google marketing products. Well, being one of the older people going through that training was really, it was something very eye-opening and interesting because, young people, they get it like that because they've been
Yeah,
looking at computers and knowing digital stuff since they were 3. And
right.
me and some of the other people who are like 40 plus, we were struggling. We were like, oh my God. So we were kind of like the slower people in the class, constantly asking the youngins, like, can you help me? Because the computer, like we were like, yeah, it was hilarious. But after we all graduated and we started getting on we started having clients or whatever, then of course, older
Yeah,
people, we just took off and we did wonderfully because we know other, durable skills like communication and all.
right.
Like we know other things. And so we were able to kind of just soar. But it was funny going through training. Anyway, I
Yeah.
digress.
Mhm. It's
I
okay.
worked there. I learned a lot, a lot. In fact, that was better than me going to college because I learned straight from Google, right? Digital marketing and everything about it. And they were talking about, machine learning and AI and all that long before,
Mhm,
it happened, and we're living
mhm.
it now. So it was just really good for me to catch up per se to everyone now. So I had to catch
Right.
up. But one thing that I did find out was that I ended up being a trainer for
Okay.
them. And kind of like you were saying, like, even though, yes, I was always a mentor to those individuals
Mhm.
that I led, because I led teams and things like that. But it wasn't until I actually was a trainer that I realized that I really, really enjoy what lights me up is teaching or facilitating, or I don't know. It's basically sharing information with other people and
Mhm.
really lighting up when I see the light bulb click for them. Like, it's
Yeah.
like when the light, I
Yeah.
can know you can as a teacher. And my mom was like, I come from a line of teachers, so maybe it was always kind of in there. But when people, you see people click as an educator or as a facilitator or someone who is trying to show someone the way, oh my goodness, that just, warmed my heart. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I got so excited. So that was something that I knew lit me up as well. So I think me now being in a position where I can share my gifts with others, I can facilitate, women's circles and workshops and basically do the same thing, just with different, it's different curriculum, right? It's more about personal growth, but still to see the light bulb click and be like, ooh, that person gets it. And then you see the transformation before your eyes. That really lights me up. And so, yes, I am very creative, but I think that part of my creativity is also that education piece, if that makes sense. And I know you relate because you are an educator. So.
Oh no, I totally relate. I actually say the same thing when it comes to my students. I think that when they get it, or any win that they have in the classroom, I get so excited. And I really try to get other students to celebrate anybody who wins in the room, because that's what it's all about. I think that when people realize that they can do something or they have learned something, it changes them. It's a big part of transformation. To support that, I believe, gives us energy. I think it's all
absolutely.
We're all connected. Yeah.
Yes. And to me, that's where you tap into your purpose, right? So there's a lot of people. So again, I am really good at marketing. I mean, I can, I can help folks with their marketing. I thought about that for a while too, to help entrepreneurs in particular, because they're the ones that need the most help. They don't have tons and tons of money. So a lot of times they're trying to bootstrap stuff to make it work.
Right.
And I'm good at that, but it doesn't light me up. So that kind of lighting up that you just described and that I was talking about as far as the education. So the thing is, there's a lot of people out there that are working jobs and doing things, and they're very good at it because they've had training and they've been doing it for many years, but they still feel like something's missing. And I think that's where my programs talk about, right? It's the alignment piece of it. And of course, my audience are females, but I mean, men go through the same thing. And, usually when we as humans hit 40, the reason why they call it midlife and the whole midlife crisis and the reason is because we have done all the things usually by that time, right? We've had the kids, we've climbed up the corporate ladder. Even if you don't have kids, done whatever it is you've wanted to do. And by the time we hit that age, we start doing introspection. A lot of people, I'm not saying everybody, but a lot of people start doing introspection because they thought that they would feel different being the senior vice president, blah, blah, blah. They have tons of money. They can travel, their kids are now going to college. They thought, okay, but there's still something missing. And, women, I mean, it's different for women and men. For men, I feel bad for men because they have been trained to compartmentalize everything. That's a whole nother thing. They have been taught not to express their feelings. And to really lean into that and push through. They've been taught, push it down, compartmentalize, lock it up. And so they have all these rooms with all this stuff ready to explode. And that's why a lot of men have, problems when they get older. They're having panic attacks and, heart problems and whatever, because they have been taught, keep it in. And at some point it's going to explode. But for women, we have been taught most of our life to give, and nurture everybody else and not take care of ourselves, right? And so for us, we know that everything is all intertwined for us. We don't compartmentalize at all. We're very bad at it. And the ones who are good at it, they have the same problem as men. So they're the ones that one day they just snap and go off on everybody. People are like, okay, she had a nervous breakdown. Yeah, she had a nervous breakdown. Right?
Yeah, she did. She did.
Because, that's just insane. But for women, we are taught, and society teaches that we're taught that we give to everyone else, right? You're giving to your children, you're giving to your spouse. And that doesn't mean that your spouse doesn't give back to you or that your children don't as well. But it's like we're taught that we put everybody else, our community, our church, our, job, everything first. And by the time it's time for us, we're exhausted. We're ready to just go to bed, right? We have nothing left, no more energy left for us. And so it's usually when we hit 40, when we've climbed the corporate ladder, we're already the senior VP of blah, blah, blah. Our children are now, okay, great. We've raised them. They're off to college. Yes, I did my job. It's that point where it's like, okay, now what about me? What really is it that lights me up? Now it's my time. Like I have girlfriends who are like, girl's gone, I'm a single mom, raised her, she's doing her thing. It's my time now. And honestly, that's how it's my time. What do I want to do? Do I want to travel? Do I want to write? Do I want to, and so people start reassessing, and especially in corporate, start reassessing like, I don't want to spend all day, every day, and on weekends at a job.
Right.
Maybe I could do what I'm doing for this company for myself as a consultant, and then I can decide where my time goes. That's when that starts coming into play, because we start to look at, hey, we've got less years ahead of us than behind us. And how do we really want to lean into this becoming? That I say this all the time about midlife. Midlife to me is a time of becoming of who you are supposed and meant to be, because until this time, you've been growing, you've been learning, you've been trying to have those life experiences so that you can really understand what it is that you love, that you hate, that you want, that you don't, that kind of stuff, right? And so this is the time really where you're leaning into who you are going to be, right? And you're leaning into your twilight years, the years that you're supposed to really and enjoy and just be, right? Be present and realize the beauty around you, right? And all the things and the noise and all that is not important in this time. Right. You use that time in your life to get to this time where now you can just sit and enjoy the beauty around you. Right. And so that's kind of how I look at midlife. And, for someone like me, I love to dance and I love to be loud and joyful and whatever. So for me, it's peace, but peace for me is different. For some people, it's, sitting in a park and just listening to, the sounds around you. And that is a beautiful thing. And that is very grounding. For someone like me, it might be, blasting house music in my car, singing at the top of my lungs. I mean, you know what I'm saying? And I feel peaceful. I know people think that's crazy, but I still feel peaceful in that time.
No, I definitely don't think that's crazy. That's very similar to what I do. I was thinking as you were speaking, and I'm sure all listeners are thinking about themselves, being reflective as you're saying all these things, like what parts of that apply to me? And so much of it does. Like when you were talking about that as we get older, how we feel, one of the things I observed recently is I started going back and looking at pictures of myself, like just over time, like in Facebook on the timeline. And I'm like, oh, wow. Like, I feel like Benjamin Button. Like, I feel like I'm going backwards, honest to goodness. Chronologically.
I could not agree with you more. In fact, because you know me really well. So, and we had this conversation at a coffee shop, Jared's. I'm going to give a shout out to Jared's coffee shop because it's fabulous anyway in Mesa. But, oh my goodness, we had this conversation because I looked very different back a while ago. I mean, I had the long hair, the very corporate look, and sister girls out there, you know what I'm talking about. So for ethnic women, there's a certain look that is way more approved in corporate settings. And I had the whole thing, long hair, you know what I'm saying? I looked a certain way. And I felt good because I always fit in. I fit in and I felt good. Right. But This is more me. And me and you had a conversation about that when I decided to cut my hair and to go natural and to just let my boho vibe flow. Right. And because I've always had a boho vibe, y'all, but it was kind of muted because I still had to have that. No, don't get me wrong. I could throw down in a suit because I had to, you know what I'm saying? Like I look good in a suit and I look good with the, Chanel and all that, but that's not really me. It's somewhat me, but not really me, right? I'm really more of the creative boho kind of thing, right? Give me shawls, give me, flowy dresses and stuff like that. But in corporate, that just doesn't fly. You do need to throw down, and look good in a suit and whatever, which I could do. But my thought is, why can't I be in a suit with a fro? You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, but anyway. But I remember us having this conversation when I cut my hair and I started to wear it natural. And I was like, this is just feels more like me, but it took a long time to lean into that. And I think that was one of the first kind of puzzle pieces where I was like, I need to work for myself, because honestly, it really shouldn't matter. Really, in our society, it really shouldn't matter how you look as long as you're doing your job, but it does matter. I mean, let's just be real. It does. And there is, and I understand, I understand as a business, you have your brand. I'm a marketer. So I understand about brand and personal branding and all that. And so as a business, you have a brand. And so I worked a lot in finance, in marketing departments of finance, or, when I was working at agencies, they're way more lenient on, your creative expression, right? So you can kind of be how you are. But in financial situations, when you're working with wealth management firms, which I did in the beginning, it is not about really me or the fact that I'm a Black woman. It's more about everybody has to wear this uniform and everybody's going to wear the uniform, right? And so kind of understood.
I started out in the days of pantyhose in the banking industry, so I know exactly what you're talking about. The thought of that in Arizona now is like, no. But anyway,
I know. Well, I will say it was great because when I moved to Arizona, I was still in finance, but they are I'm from Chicago, y'all, and so it was very, blue, gray, black suit, period. Like, don't be wearing no green, purple, any kind of like loud color, like no. And it was very, and this is back in the day too, so it was very different. But then when I came to Arizona, I will say people were like, yeah, we're not wearing, like, even the guys, they're like, we're not wearing suits, we'll wear like polos and like, because it's hot. You know what I'm saying? So, we're not gonna be in the button-up suit unless we're in a meeting or whatever like that. But but for me, I just started to, and again, I was older and I just started leaning more into what just feels comfortable for me. What do I like? My vibe, what is really my vibe? And so I just started to really lean into it. And I was just like, okay, this is what I'm doing. So I'm gonna cut my hair. I'm gonna let it go. And, sometimes it's, this color, sometimes it's blonde. You know how I am. I get highlights, whatever. But the bottom line is that, this is more me. It feels more authentic.
And that's important. And that's where I was going with that, because, I too, when you met me, I was pre-locked. In fact, my hair was,
I remember.
I mean,
they weren't even that long. I mean, your hair has grown a lot. Like,
yeah, absolutely. But it's a very strong part of my self-expression. It makes me feel like the lioness that I am. I mean, it really does. And so
you come across that way.
Yeah.
Right. And you come, your essence comes across that way. And so for everyone listening, again, when you feel good, because you're expressing yourself to the world, and that's in all aspects, even in how you dress and how you talk and how you show up, people can feel it. They feel that energy. And so that's kind of some of the things that I touch upon, and that, in workshops and when I'm working with women, is to really do that soul work. Because again, I mean, I was in corporate for many, many, many years, and you do get conditioned. And it's not that it's bad. It's just that, again, there's work and there's what lights you up. And let me say this too. You don't necessarily, this is another thing, you don't necessarily have to work for yourself and do to express yourself, to lean into your purpose or any of that. Because you know what, for some people it is, I'm really good at whatever it is you do for a living. And you go and you do that for a living and you give your service to the world through your work. But your purpose might be what you do on the weekends when you're coaching Little League, or when you're for men, and or women, like when you're coaching the soccer team, or when you're a Girl Scout leader, or, you know, I mean, there's, or when you're helping your church. There are plenty of ways that you can express yourself and call into your purpose. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to be making a living doing that. I mean, I know a lot of people talk about like, oh, you know, whatever it is that you love, do what you love, and you're never working a day in your life, and do what you love, and you know, make a living with what you love. And sometimes what you love to do, you can't make a living on. You just can't.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, you may have certain things that you might love traveling all the time or whatever. And you're like, okay, I'm sorry, but me, you know, dibbling and dabbling in my garden is not going to allow me financially to do that. But I do love it and it lights me up. So you do that.
Unless you start a YouTube channel and you videotape yourself doing it.
Okay, yes, you can do that. And you're absolutely right, Miss Mama Lyons. Yes, you can. You can do that. But what I'm saying is, I don't want everybody to feel like they have to give up their job, or like not, you know, or feel any kind of way because they're making really good money as the senior VP of blah, 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 blah. Hey, more power to you. It's just, you know,
but I do think they'll come to a crossroad. I do think that people in that position will come to a crossroad. Maybe it's retirement, maybe it's prior to retirement. But the point is, and there's a lot of people who can't decide. I have people say all the time, and you're a certified life coach, by the way. I know you're a coach. You're trained to ask the right questions, right?
But I
have people that say all the time, I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know what lights me up. I don't know what and there's, for me personally, I think about when I started to actually capture the real notion of what it is that lit me up. It was when I became more authentic. So you talked about some things earlier. You said, you know, when you're in this position, you're in corporate, you have to do these things. I learned at some point that my savior was being authentic, and I was willing to handle the fallout that came from that. In other words, if I didn't want to do something, if I felt it was compromising, I would just simply say. And I was that person. I was just on LinkedIn, in fact, with some other people. We were commenting about, are you that person in the room that people are like, oh my God? At times I was. When people wanted meetings to end, I had a few more questions, because I couldn't walk away without knowing the answers to what I wanted answers to. Or there was always someone in the room that I felt like wasn't getting it. And there's that inner wanting to teach thing. I'm going to make sure that I help the people around me. So I'm like, okay, no, you need to clarify that type thing. There are people who will sit in a room, never say anything, and they don't get any of what's going on. And for me, that's egregious. Like, you got to be kidding me. There's no way. If there's something on the table that belongs to me, I'm not leaving until I get it off that table. But that's not natural for everyone. And so.
All right. Well, and here's the thing. So, and I'm glad this is a great segue. So that's why I created journals. Well, let me first say, there are plenty of times in our lives, like me included, where I'm like, I don't know what I want to do, or I think this is what it is, my purpose or whatever, but I'm not 100% sure. And that's where soul work comes in. And when people talk about soul work, whether they're coaches, teachers, people who are really into self-development or whatever, when we talk about the soul work, it is really doing that reflection. And sometimes you need guidance for that because you don't know. And so that's why, I mean, let me show you. So I've created journals. I mean, I have journals. Actually, I have tons of journals that I've created. And I'm not saying you can have a blank journal with nothing but lines in it. Just start writing down your thoughts. Like, there are certain things that you can do. What do you love? Just start writing down. If you had all the money in the world, like money was not a thing, what would you like to be doing? Are there places you'd like to go? Right? Like you just need to start getting it out, right? And start the wheels turning. And so that's why a lot of times with journals, it's great because, there's prompts in here, right? Like there's prompts that the certain journals, have prompts in them. So it'll force you to kind of think about, okay, if you had all the money in the world, what is the one thing you'd love to do, or whatever. So there's tons of different types of prompts. I mean, there's all kinds of ways that you can start your mind and your soul to start really stirring and kind of figuring out what is it. Because a lot of times we don't get still and really think. I mean, most people, and I talk about intentionality all the time, because we are always living on autopilot. It is easy for even people who teach intentionality like myself. I am human. And of course, I'm going to revert back to habits, behaviors that I am used to doing because it is a routine. And so I get into and I talk about the difference between rituals and routines. A ritual is something that's intentional, right? A routine is something that is done on autopilot, right? And so again, there's little mind shifts that you have to do in order to start incorporating rituals into your life so that you can create a life and design a life that you want. But we all fall into the autopilot mode. We just do. And the way that people get out of autopilot is they come to center. You hear this all the time. People who practice yoga, people who meditate, again, you get present and you stop all of now that's not to say, again, the whole meditation thing, I'm not someone who can sit there for 3 hours in silence. That's not what I'm talking about, because your mind is going 20 million miles a minute. You understand that your mind is going 20 miles a minute, but you focus, right? That's all it is. And even if it's for a short period of time, the point is that you get still and you get present so that you can then just take a breath, focus, and then move forward. Even if it's, we all have to do that. That's why people love like rituals, right? I have a nightly ritual where I get in a bath after a long day and I basically turn on mild music, or some people listen to podcasts, or whatever it is. That's what you're doing. You're basically being still, right? And taking a pause for a moment. And again, there's tons of examples of people doing that, but that's the time when you can really start to do that reflection. And when we talk about soul work, that's when you should have a pen and a paper and start writing it down. Or if you're someone who's really into digital, you don't like writing stuff. Like I love writing stuff down. I have to joke. I have all my colored pens because I'm one of those people like you. I have to have, like, I not only write notes, but I have to write them in color. You know what I'm saying? And I'm old school. I've got like planners. I don't have like digital
planners, just one after the other. I am the same way.
Exactly.
They're everywhere. And I will spend money for the good ones. Like it has to be heavy, tab. I get it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. So now, Davina, you gotta spend money. You gotta spend money. You gotta spend money on mine. Okay.
Like
no, seriously.
On yours. That's right. I was gonna ask you that. I was gonna ask you, how do people get your journals?
So if people, all of my products, so I have journals. I want people to have an experience. So I also have companion products that go with the journals. So for example, incense and, essential oils and singing bowls and, really luxe, like, blankets, meditation cushions, all the things, right? Malas and, you know what I'm saying? And different kinds of, crystals and the kind of stones that you wear, because again, amethyst, it means something. So I got all that stuff. Right. So you can go to my website, which is www.positivelymelanie, all one word.com. And on there is really the Meliverse. Really, it's the whole, like, I've got poetry in there. Yeah, so I've got like poetry in there. I've got imagery of, all kinds of different things.
I'm glad you brought that up. You are a poet.
Yeah.
You hadn't shared that yet, but your
Yes.
poetry is
Yes.
amazing. Where can
Thank you
people
very
see
much.
your poetry?
Oh, absolutely. So you can go on my website, you'll see my poetry because you can click
Okay.
on, you can also subscribe to my newsletter because on my newsletter, it's called Soul Shine and I drop it every week. It's through Substack and it is free. I'm not one of those people that charge. But I not only have things that I write, but I also have affirmations and
Mhm.
guided affirmations. So you'll hear like there'll be things where I will actually speak and you can like actually hear little affirmations for the week. So yeah. So
Mhm.
Soul Shine is on there. And then yes, on my website, you'll see, I mean, I have a blog, I have poetry, I have visuals. I really talk about the 3 pillars that are really important to me, which is, again, intentional living, positive mindset, and joyful self-expression. And I kind of talk about the life dimensions within that. In fact, I'm going to have a pilot of a women's circle, and it's called the
Mm.
Circle of 8, and it touches on the 8 dimensions. I call them life dimensions. I got it from the wellness dimensions, which is
Sure.
more in the mental health space. Dr. Peggy Swarbrick started the 8 dimensions of wellness. And so instead of saying emotional wellness, physical wellness, spiritual wellness, I just say the heart, the mind, the body, the soul, the
Mhm.
calling, the flow, so the
Mhm.
flow is for financial, right? The calling is your occupational, the space is your environmental, the heart obviously is emotional, the circle is the social. So I take them, but I remixed it a little so that it's more about overall well-being and not so much tied to mental health, though I do believe mental health is all a part of overall
Mhm.
well-being. But I just want people to understand that all of those life dimensions, it touches all of us. And so to understand how to lean into alignment of that and not focus so much on balancing. So that's another thing I teach a lot, the difference between balance and alignment, because a lot
Mhm.
of people talk about work-life balance or you need to balance. And I even say that sometimes I'm like from burnout to balance because I know that's what people understand. But really for me, balance is more about
Mhm.
managing and trying
Mhm.
to make and that's never going to happen. Alignment is being. So balance is managing, whereas alignment is you're just being. You're okay if maybe your flow of abundance, financial, isn't where you want it to be, but you're okay. You accept where you are and you're
Right.
doing the things necessary to get you to where you want to be. You're in alignment. You are in alignment. You aren't trying to balance. Hopefully that makes sense to people.
It does. It does. When I listen to you and I think about it, for some people it may sound like a lot of work what you're talking about. It may sound like a lot of
Yeah.
effort. A lot of energy has to be put out. And I relate and understand what you're talking about because I've been through this journey and I've evolved
Mm-hmm.
from being
Yeah.
someone
Yeah.
who was negative and who was always stressed and worried and so many things in my younger years, making poor choices and so forth and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I said earlier I feel like Benjamin Button because I'm like going backwards and like I just feel I wake up now happy, like genuinely happy, and I believe that's because I'm navigating my life and I feel
Mm-hmm.
in at the helm. I don't feel like I'm being reactive every day. But it was a
Right.
journey.
Right.
It was tough,
Right.
right?
Oh,
It was
absolutely.
long.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Along the
And
way.
everyone has to start, right? I mean,
Right,
it's the
right,
little but that's where the mindset comes in, right? So it's not just about being intentional, it's also about your
right.
mindset and it's about little micro shifts. You don't have to do a lot of work. Yes, soul work does take work and it's a lifetime work. Like it's we are constantly, and when I say we, people who are really tuned in and focused on self-development and
Right.
and all these things, it's a lifetime that you're going to learn. I don't know it all. I will never know it all. In fact, that's
Right.
part of the journey, is understanding and recognizing that I don't have all the answers. I really
Right.
don't. I'm
Right.
going to continually seek out, right? And the thing when you do hear people say, oh, well, the answers are within you. Yes, they are. And it seems like it's a lot of work, but it really isn't. It's really just shifting how you orientate yourself to the world and how you see things. And sometimes we have to go through things in order to get on the other side and get that knowledge, right? I mean,
Say that again.
Sometimes we have to go through that pain, right? We have to push through that, get to the other side in order to understand and learn. That's how you get resilient. People who walk around and seem joyous, like I'll take myself for example. I tell my kids this all the time because it really annoys me when well, Mom, of course you're always happy. Nothing happens to you. It's like, y'all, please. In fact, there's a lot of very negative things that have happened to my life. It's not about what happens to me. It's how I respond, not react to it. But that took time and soul work, right? Because it's like, again, it's not about just saying, well, everything's fine and I'm okay. And what? No, it's about feeling those emotions, recognizing, dealing with it, not compartmentalizing, pushing it down, whatever, and pushing through it. That's how you become resilient. Really, that is where resiliency comes from, is from the pain, the sorrow, the pain, the sorrow, disappointments, all that. If you never, well, first of all, no human being goes through life unscathed, period. But if you never have disappointment, drama, stress, whatever, then you're not growing. You're not going to grow because you need to learn. The universe is trying to tell us that you will be okay. You will get through it. Now, it might take some people 2 minutes to get through it, other people 2 years, and other people 20. Everyone's different. But the bottom line is that you will get through it. As long as you are breathing, you will get through it, right? And so, I mean, again, it's not that bad things don't happen to positive leaning people. And let me talk about this too. You can either lean positive or lean negative. Most people, you lean one way or the other, and there's no right or wrong. I'll just be honest, there's no right or wrong. And when I say lean positive or lean negative, you know how it is. Something happens, and the first thing that pops in your mind is it negative.
Right.
There we go. Right. I'm always in traffic. Oh, so-and-so got my drink wrong at Starbucks. Why are they? Oh, I always have bad luck.
Right.
Or are you someone who leans positive? It's like, rush, I'm in traffic. Oh, well, you know what? Let me turn on my podcast and I'm in traffic right now. I might as well listen to my girl's podcast. Like, again, that doesn't mean you're not pissed that you're in traffic. That doesn't mean that you're not going to be angry because you got to work late, or that you might hear somebody yapping. Why are you 5 minutes late? It's, you know what? I'm in traffic. There's nothing I can do about it. So I might as well listen to my girl's podcast, as opposed to having the loop in my head going over and over again, how life is so horrible and it's always me who has the bad luck and whoever made me late and whatever that story.
There's a choice there.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
There. Mindset. Absolutely. There is. And that's where you have to do some self-talk. I always say some people are experiential. They have to go through something in order to learn. Yes. And then other people will hear something. And I hope a lot of our listeners will hear something that will click, and they'll say, okay, I'm going to do this different. And I think there's room for both, obviously, in society, but I totally get what you're saying. It's like, if I look back on all of the experiences I've had, even the bad ones, I don't feel like, oh, I wish I had a different life. I don't wish anything's different at this point. I'm okay because I'm so at peace with where I am today. And like you said, and life isn't perfect. I think my engine just went out on my car. That's not a good thing.
But you're aligned. You're aligned, Davina. So that's what I'm saying. You're aligned. So even though your car battery went out, even though, you're not, living on top of the mountain with, millions of dollars, the bottom line is you are aligned. And because you're aligned, you're able to lean into what lights you up. You are now aware of those little wins every day. So it's those little mind shifts. And that's what I want to tell people. A
Mhm.
win could be, you know what, today I woke up and I had really good sleep last night. And so I feel energized. That's a
Mhm.
win because
That's good.
there are times when you are exhausted and you can't sleep during the night and you wake up on the wrong side of the bed, right? So just
Mhm.
waking up on the right side of the bed can be a win. And so
That's
it's
right.
about also
That's right.
stopping to recognize those little wins because again, especially for women, we tend to self-sabotage and we tend to always want to look at the negative or the bad, like, oh, you're doing all these wonderful things and you look and focus on the one thing that's not right. And that's what
Isn't
you
that the
focus
truth?
on, not all the other things that you've done. Right. So
Isn't that the
um,
truth? Yeah.
we're real good at
Yeah,
that.
yeah, we are. We are. I wonder what that's all about, but I definitely know it's a pattern.
Yeah.
And it's okay. But I definitely want our listeners to understand that growth is an ongoing process. Being resilient, my thing, everybody knows that knows me, my thing is all about resilience. And I celebrate resilience because I know that's what got me where I am today. You know,
Mhm.
I'm in such a really good space today because I did go through some things.
Right.
Not that I got around them or got, I went through them. And for
Right.
that, I have so much to share to younger people or people who are experiencing things that I went through, make choices that I made. I get it.
Mhm.
I just know that it's going to be greater later. I learned that. And that's
I
also, I
love that.
think, a
There,
part
there.
about,
Yeah. Mhm.
you know what I mean? Getting,
Yeah.
getting, getting older. There's such to me, there's so many badges of courage, badges of honor about being an older person to me personally. I don't have a problem
Mhm.
with aging. That's why I freely share my age, on Facebook when I just turned 61. Yay. I share that because I want people to feel good about the life that they've lived and where they're headed and to know it's never too late. It's simply never too
Oh
late.
yeah.
It's
No,
never too late to
absolutely.
be positive, right? If you've
No,
been
absolutely.
negative, it's not too
Mhm.
late to change your mindset, to shift it,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about those, about the different areas. I don't want to mess up what you called it, but not the balance.
Oh,
You know,
the life dimensions. Yeah.
dimensions. Thank
So
you.
yeah, you're like, yeah, tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah.
Well, essentially, um, it originated from Dr. Peggy Swarbrick, where she elaborated on the wellness dimensions, and she is a psychologist. So it came from, and I'm trying to remember the original psychologist that had six. So
Mm-hmm.
he had six, and she added two. She
Mm-hmm.
added finance and I think environment. I think it was
Mm-hmm.
environment and finance. But
Mm-hmm.
basically, it is all of the areas in your life where you need to focus on wellness. And so, of course, there's social wellness, emotional wellness,
Mm-hmm.
physical wellness, spiritual wellness, occupational wellness, environmental wellness, and I'm missing one, a financial wellness, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, oh, and intellectual wellness. So that's the mind.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
all of that,
Reading.
it was really,
Yeah.
yeah, it really came from a mental health situation to help people who were going through mental health issues and how to focus and be healthy in those areas. And so what I did was I just, kind of remixed it because I do believe that each one of those dimensions or whatever you want to
Right.
call it,
Right.
areas of life, it's really important that one, we acknowledge, two, that we figure out how we can best align when, no matter where we are, because you're never going to balance them all at the same time, but like how we can feel
Right.
good and align, be overall healthy. Because when you're aligned in all of those dimensions, you are going to feel joy and be positive.
Right.
Happiness is a feeling. So like, so to me, when I say happy, that's not, I mean joy, because, happiness is something that, and it's scientific, like, you get endorphins to your, like, you can
And
feel
it can be
happy.
fleeting. can be quick.
It is very
Happy.
fleeting. Not can be. It is fleeting.
Right.
Happiness is fleeting, just like sorrow, just like
That's
anger,
right.
just like all of it is fleeting. But it is to be acknowledged and to understand why your body, why you are expressing that. Right? There's reasons for it. Joy is, again, it comes to being. So if you are just naturally a positive person or just someone who just has a certain glow about them, you're probably very well aligned in those areas of life. That doesn't mean that all of them are at 100 all the time.
Right.
You know, you could be someone who's like, look, I haven't stepped in any kind of spiritual church, whatever, in years, but you still feel a good connection with the universe or whatever, right? And maybe you're like,
Right.
that's something that I focus on. You know, the same, you know, you could be like, look, I have a really healthy circle of friends and people around me that I enjoy, but, you know, maybe I am still trying to figure out what I want to do that lights me up for a living, right? I mean, what's my purpose, right? And that's fine. It's more about aligning yourself to being okay with where you're at and focusing on the ways that you can get better, you know, as opposed to, oh, this isn't where I want it to be. Something's wrong with me. Something's wrong. You know, it's more
generalizing
exactly. Exactly. But you need to kind of really, that's why I like to say, instead of emotional, then I say the head, right? The heart, the soul, right? The calling, the flow. You know, that for more people, it detaches the whole mental health thing and becomes more of an overarching overall well-being.
Right. I know the first time this was introduced to me, what you're talking about, years back, I had done some research and I was for my own business for coaching.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, I have to prioritize. And I know there are activities where people can determine what area should they really focus in. And I'm sure some of your programs would help with that. Because it's not like every, you know, it's not drinking from a fire hose. It's not that, because that can turn people off too. You know, however many dimensions there are, I got issues in all of them. Okay, I'm not going to do anything.
Exactly. Well, they all intertwine, right? That's why it's hard when people that's why I feel for our gentlemen when they compartmentalize, because at some point you're going to explode. But but you're absolutely right.
Take a step back. And I know for me, there's seasons. Like I had a poor financial season where, okay, now I need to put my energy. Now, what's interesting though, is that in that season, obviously I have to use your intellectual. You have to think about, okay, what can I do better? There's going to have to be some sacrifice. I'm going to have to cut out some bills. There's steps and things that have to be done, but the mindset has to be right so that you have the discipline to do those things and to not have
those pillars. That's why the pillars are so important. The intentionality, mindset, and joyful self-expression, because you also have to understand, Davina, everyone has different values. So again, when we're talking about flow and abundance with regard to money or whatever, your values, it's going to be different, right?
Yeah.
One person, their abundance is going to come monetarily, where somebody else's abundance is going to come in a different way, right? So, you know, and there's no right or wrong. That's the thing. There is no right or wrong, right?
A good example, people who have a lot of money, but they're not happy, or they don't have joy. And then the next person's looking at them going, if I had that house, if I had that car, if I had that money, my life would be this. Not necessarily, because they're so, like you said, it's all intertwined. And for those people who don't have the joy, they have the money, they would like to have maybe a great relationship. Someone, you know, they would like to have someone.
And that's for the abundance. That's why I call that the flow, because it's about abundance. It's not just tied to finance, even though finance is a part of it, because again, you may only need a certain amount of money to be extremely joyful in your life, depending on what it is that lights you up. If you're someone who's like, look, I love to travel to different countries, and I want to really immerse myself in the culture, you don't need lots of money, because it's not about staying at the most fabulous hotel. You want to be immersed. So those people have backpacks, have, little, what do they call it, little Airstreams, and they just go. And a lot of times it's not about money for them, but you see them all over YouTube happy, and you're like, oh, I wish I was like them. I could just pack up and go. And they're having all these wonderful experiences, and it has nothing to do. In fact, those people it has nothing to do with money, because they have an abundance of all of this wonderful experience that they are enjoying. Right. And so, and then for somebody else, it's like, hey, I've worked really hard or whatever. And look, girlfriend here just bought my first house, and, it's fabulous, and I'm decorating, and you see those people all over YouTube too, and good for them. And they're both are extremely joyful, because they are for them, it is, they are doing what lights them up. And so that's what I'm saying. There's no right or wrong. It's very individual, and it's very personal. And so it depends on your values and all that. And that's what I try to get people to tap into when I'm doing work with them. Right. So it's more about your intention, right? It's more about your mindset, and it's about you understanding how to show up and express yourself in a joyful manner. And like I said earlier, it could be anything. It could be, I'm joyful when I'm, digging plants. I'm joyful when I'm fixing cars. I'm joyful when I'm helping others. I'm joyful when I'm playing with my dog. Like whatever it is. So if you do those things, right? If you are intentional in what you say and do, which does take a certain mindset, these all kind of are intertwined. It takes a certain mind shift. You do that, then of course it's going to be much easier for you to show up and express yourself in those moments where you're doing things that you love to do. You're going to be joyful in it. You're going to be able to recognize it. You're going to be able to lean into it, and you're going to be able to do it on a more frequent basis, because you're intentional about what you say yes to, what you say no to, you know what I'm saying? Like it all intertwines, right? You can't be doing things that you love to do on the weekend if you're constantly saying yes to things you don't want to do, because you're trying to, make somebody else happy, or you're trying to, people please or whatever, right? Then you're taking energy and time away from doing the things you love to do, because you can't say no.
I agree.
So, and I'm the opposite. So for me, I used to always say yes to everything, because I was always, whenever I was in here's a thing. Never make a decision when you are emotional. And that's even positive, because when you are happy, I will tell you from experience, when you are joyful and happy and you are on bliss, you and your friends are having a great time, and somebody's saying, do you want to go da-da-da, or do you want to do da-da-da, or can you do? Sure, of course, because you're, you got the pixie dust all around you. So of course, and then after the pixie dust fades away, and a few hours later, and you're thinking to yourself, what did I commit myself? I don't want to do that. Why would I commit myself? I'm overextended. Why would I say yes? Because you are on a high. So that's why, for me, I had to learn that, because I always knew, we'll never make, never talk or make commitments or whatever when you're in a bad mood, or when you're like not, that's when you don't want to talk. You also don't want to talk to people when you are overly joyful, because you will overcommit. And then you will think to yourself, why in the world did I say yes? I shouldn't have said yes. Why did I say yes? So
I love it, Melanie. You know what? You be so many nuggets, and your positivity is coming through.
Hey, I've been there many a times where I'm overextended and I'm kicking myself. And I'm like, you feel bad because either you do it and you're resentful, or you have to still break someone's heart, because now you got them all excited because you said you were going to do something, and you're not going to do it. And now you got to go back and be like,
okay, I am guilty of that. I am guilty of that, because I always tell myself, I want to go here. I want to do this. I want to do that. And then when it's time to do it, no. I
don't feel like it.
I don't feel like that today. I don't want to do that. But
it's so funny. My husband always says, whenever I say I'll think about it, he was like, that's no. He was like, why are you even saying to think about it? That's no. I know you. It's no. And I'm like, you know what? I have to stop doing that. So this is something that I'm telling
Change it up.
I'm working on. Yeah, it's like, because I will say, I'll think about it because there's a part of me that doesn't want to disappoint, right? It's like,
Right.
so I'm not saying no, but I know it's no. Because if it's
Yes.
yes, I'll just say yes. It's
Yes.
I'll think about it is Melanie or Positively Melanie's way of saying no. So I need to work on that.
That's good. That's good.
So
All
anyone
right,
who I've
man.
said, I'll think about it. Now you guys know it was really no.
It was really, we all know, I know that now as your friend. When you say I think about it, that means no.
Now that was me. Now I can be held accountable. So now all of
Right.
you guys are my accountability partners. So now I can't use that anymore. So
That's right.
you know.
That's right.
Mhm.
So this time has flown by. I
Oh my
want to
gosh.
thank you so much for being my very first The Coach's Corner
It was
guest.
an honor to be the first
I
guest of Mama
it
Lyons.
just it just makes so much sense because you are definitely positive. You've been a positive light. Like I said, you've been a ray of sunshine ever since I've known you. And I didn't ask any questions about Chicago because I know that would light you up and
Oh
you'd talk even longer
yeah.
because you love Chicago.
You have to bring me back. You have to bring me
I
back,
just
and then we can have a whole show on
I am
Chi-Town
going
and
we
why
are
it's
going to
fabulous.
bring
Oh yeah.
that's right. That's right. Chi-Town, Chi-Town. But I'm ecstatic. Thank you so much for being here, for being a part of it. I do want you to hang out. Don't leave just yet.
Okay.
We have some backstage conversations and it's
Awesome.
the universe is always going. So I'm excited.
And
I'm
if anyone
grateful.
wants to find me, I'm really easy to find. I'm on all the socials. I'm on all the
Thank
things,
you.
right? It's Positively Melanie. So yeah, my website, positivelymelanie.com. And then you can
I'm sure
find
there's
all
some
the
links
things
that have been shared.
there.
Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Yep.
Look for the links in the comments. Thank you for all of our listeners. Thank you for hanging out. I could see the people just hanging out and listening, and I'm so grateful. So excited. Can't wait to do this again. In fact, the next time we have the Coach's Corner will be in 2 weeks. And also, but next week I'll be back with Voices of Resilience. And so stay tuned and look for that as well. That has a different perspective. Resiliency is my thing, but I love to share the stories of people who have been resilient and or the lessons that others can learn to become more resilient. And so I'm looking forward to that as well. But as always, I'm grateful. I'm grateful to BBTV for this opportunity. And I want all of you who are listening, please obviously share wherever you're seeing, if it's Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, I don't care where you're seeing this, like it, share it, get the word out because this is some good stuff. And please go to Positively Melanie's website, check out her stuff, look at what she has going on, get the blanket, the candle, the journal, whatever you need to kickstart you into alignment, right? So
Yes.
thank you again, Melanie. This has just been wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks to everyone who's listening. I really appreciate it. Mwah.
Yes, 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 yes.